We start?
Just so you don't do it later on, there's no LRE presentation.
Okay. Okay. Let's start with the pledge of allegiance then. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call. Kim, here. Glenn?
Here.
Jessica, let me know that she is not able to be here tonight. Mark,
Here.
Crystal? Here. Neil,
Here.
Beth?
Here.
I'm here. Jane?
Here.
Is it Deb or Deborah?
Deb.
Deb. Let's change that. Okay. And Karen. I haven't- Karen. All right. At this point, we have a set aside time for any public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Right? Next, does anyone want to make a change or a comment about the agenda?
I'd like to change the order of the agenda to have the finance committee report at this time before the consent agenda.
Okay. We have to vote on that? No. Can I just say okay?
You gotta
Okay,
put that on the desk.
that's it. All right, good. You want to include that as a motion to
Yes,
approve the agenda as amended?
as amended.
Have support? Dr. Crystal? Any other discussion? Anybody else want to make any changes? All in favor, say yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next is the consent agenda.
No,
No.
no, finance.
that was the amendment.
I got approval of the agenda,
And I
including that.
I
Okay.
just forward the finance report up above the consent agenda.
Oh, guess what? I didn't pay attention to what you said. I just thought you were gonna put it in front of the program. Okay. Hearing impaired chair. Okay. Beth, can you give us the finance report?
This, for the month of March, I'm starting on page 5. Let's see where we shall go. To the human resources, the new, let me get started. I never go this early. I'm all flustered, but okay, OnPoint did their first pay for performance reviews cycle, and I think the employees were pleasantly surprised that it wasn't a gotcha or you're in trouble thing, that it was pretty effective. The other new committee that OnPoint has, maybe it's not new, but it's called Folks for Fun, and it's working on employee, culture, fun activities, and they'll have an activity every month. In the IT department, our fiber still sits out on the road. ShareCo was trying to come in or under or with Frontier's path, and Frontier Legal said, nope, can't do that. So they are now looking at, trying the next, what was the next one?
Next vendor,
Next vendor,
contracted vendor.
yeah, so we're trying to do that. And then, a new dashboard will be coming to the intranet for employees to help them see how the organization is working and how well it's working and so on and so forth. As for facilities, oh, I just did that. Oh, the big one, the mat area, which is a big room that is just kind of open right now. we have gone out, OnPoint has gone out and obtained 3 bids. The lowest bid was Schley Nelson Architects, and they're the ones that did this building. So that fits nicely into getting the mat area up and running and more useful for the organization. So any questions on that part? All right. I'm gonna jump to page 11 and keep going with the financials. On the far right corner column on page 11, under the Medicaid subtotal, that 280,000, that is expected to go back to the LRE. And then about almost to the bottom, the CCBHC subtotal is sitting at about 237,800, and that is a nice little happy amount of money to stay right here. The general fund, the nice part with the general fund is that we didn't have to use it to cover our bills in March, so that was nice. What else is there? One of the reasons the CCBHC did so well is that there were 800 outstanding I don't know, services, billings, whatever you want to call them, that the finance department had to go through manually. And what they found was a program glitch in the system. And once they got the program logic worked out, they realized, oh, they weren't getting to the CCBHC totals. And so that was part of the reason it did better in March. But we're also seeing an uptick in visits, which means services billed. So it's slowly trending in the right direction. But we will see. 1 month doesn't make a happy year, so we'll keep going. On the next page, page 12, the balance sheet. Basically, very solid. Pretty much a repeat of the last couple of months. The one thing I'll point you to is way down on the bottom, second number to the very bottom, far right column, the 2,659,000. That's unrestricted, and that is a solid, confident number for us. Moving on to page 13, statement of revenue. Expenses, change in net position. We're halfway through the year already, so the percentages on the far right column should be 50%. The second percentage is at 61. So why are we getting more revenue at 61%? Which is always a good question to ask. And there were fewer disenrollments. People like fall off the rolls for the Healthy Michigan, but they stayed on. And so we have a little bit more revenue than what we were expecting. So total operating revenue is sitting right at 48.5%. Compared that to the total expenses, 47.7%. What that should tell you is that we're doing a very nice job managing our costs because we're right in line with our revenue, and our expenses should match our revenue in this business. Change in net position, third from the bottom. The middle number, the 434,700 and some, that's year to date. So in the first half of the year, our net position has increased by that. Let's see. Last month, I talked a lot about how many visits we have and how many visits we need to break even. March was a very good month. We're still roughly 795 visits behind compared in our budget. So we have some ways to go before we're out of the woods. So Andre, would you like to add anything to that?
You covered that. That last piece was the piece that we made a we made improvements, but we're still a little bit behind on our CCHC visits.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
May, I'm sorry, April and May are looking, they're showing some good improvement.
okay. All right. Now to page 7. We have to like pay the bills. So I make a motion that the OnPoint board approve the April 2025 disbursements totaling $950.11.
So your support?
Support.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? All right. This is money, so I'll do a roll call. Kimberly?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
I say yes. Jane?
Yes.
Deb? Yes. Motion passed.
Okay, flipping over to page 8, we have some provider contracts that we have to add to our list. I make a motion that the OnPoint board approve the following list of provider contracts for fiscal year 2025.
Support? Support. By Jane? Any questions or discussion? If not, I'll go through another roll call. Deb?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
I say yes. Beth?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. That's the end of the financial report, and thank you for letting me go first.
Any other questions for either Beth or Andre? All right, now we'll go to the consent agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to remove anything from the agenda or make any comments about the different board meetings that were in the last few months, or last month, I should say? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Support by Crystal. Any discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, at the program committee today, we had a presentation about case management and supportive services by Laura and Todd. I was pleased to see that there has been some further 2 new hirings and an ability to have a little more supervision and that affects the caseloads. And it appeared that things were in kind of in good shape. And when I left, Kim finished chairing the meeting, and she mentioned that we are getting ready for the CCBHC audit, which is starting Thursday. And that Gina asked us all to look at the website and look at the different job openings and pass that on to anybody you might think might be willing to or interested in applying for those. Is there anything else I should have mentioned from the program? Okay. Any questions for us? Right. Now. That's right. Anything that you wanted to add about recipient rights? We didn't meet this month.
We did not meet, but there was a question at the executive committee about the number of allegations that have been coming in and a concern with the increase. So Kelsey provided email to me with the numbers and I provided a copy of that to the board. And if there's any questions, I'm sure Kelsey will be happy to fill us in.
Is there any questions?
As we will meet in July.
Next one in June.
Yes.
I guess I just cursory looked at that and my take from it was there wasn't just a big, increase in a particular month, that it's been a kind of an overall. And so in a way, that's kind of a good problem. It means we're serving more people, and just the odds of more people are going to be a little more. It isn't that there's a rash of anything going on. That's what I took. Okay, good.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
do you want a motion to receive and file the recipient rights report?
Yes, please.
Make a motion at this time to receive and file the recipient rights report.
That's four. I'm gonna say Kim this time. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now I have to do the report from the executive committee meeting. We met on Friday. I would say the main thing is that, between myself and Mark, we were able to give an overall, update on what's happening federally, statewide, LRE. In general, there wasn't any awful news. There was lots of no news, which is kind of good news. And Mark, you may have a few more details in your report about what you shared with us. And then, in a sense, we got some homework to do. Mark gave us his, a draft of the new revision, of the new goals that he would like to be working towards in his contract for next month, or for next year, I should say. And we're gonna look those over, and recommend probably that those are approved at the next month's meeting. And also, Diane Bennett, our compliance officer, has gone through some our policy and procedures and has a few revisions that she's recommending that we look at. And we're gonna be looking at that as well, and come back and probably make some recommendations for those changes maybe next month. Any questions for me about the executive committee?
Sounds good.
Mark,
Did we need a motion to appoint our voting delegates for the conference?
yes, we do. Thank you. And they are you and Mark and Gail. It's been the recommendation. Are you making a motion that we approve those?
Sure.
Okay. Any support?
Support.
Okay, Glenn? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Now the other Mark.
Just as a note of clarification for everyone's sake, the LRE staff today are busy supporting one of their staff members that had a death in the family, so that's what kept them away from today's meeting. So we accepted that as a good enough reason to miss a meeting. I appreciate their willingness to be here quite regularly. Actually, that's not something every CMH enjoys in our region or in other places. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a, I'll try not to have it take too long. We can spend all night on this, but on my report, looking particularly at page 27, although answering willing comment or questions on anything on page 26, welcome to receive as well. But as Chairperson Kelsey mentioned, the situation that the LRE is dealing with, for newer board members, I'll describe it. In fiscal 2018, and 19, there were deficits for some of the CMHs in our region. And as the region went through the pandemic, it started to develop some surpluses. And it attempted to use the surpluses during that pandemic time to pay off the deficits that had been incurred in fiscal 18 and 19. The state contract didn't prohibit that, does now, did not at that time. And it was the conclusion of several folks in the accounting field, leaders in the system, that move, so long as those books had not been fully closed, it could be done legally and within generally accepted accounting practices. So it's kind of like the Bible of accounting was all fine. The state didn't like it. When the LRE was engaged in a bit of a lawsuit with the state over the threatened cancellation of a contract, the judge in fact said, not really ruling directly on the matter, but in a sidebar kind of conversation about it, said that there was nothing wrong with that practice. It was basically upheld by the judge, although it wasn't ruled on particularly. So fast forward to today, and the state is beginning to claw back dollars from that era, basically saying you were not in the right to do that. And we're going to take back $13.7 million starting now. There was an effort to work out with the state attorney general, with the governor, with the director of the Department of Health and Human Services on that issue. And that seems to have had some impact for a while. The money that they took the first swipe at it was some $4.8 million. That went into an escrow account. And so they didn't actually go back to the state general fund. But now the state is proceeding to want to claw back the remainder of that 13.7, including the amount that's in escrow. When that action starts, I would expect that the region will undertake legal action to oppose that. There really, the state, as you said, that they said has put language into its contract that prevents PHPs from doing that in now and in the future. It's a difficult thing to see happen because there really is no way, if you have a bad year in a PHP with all the CMHs that are within you, to ever be able to pay back the debt once you get into that debt territory. If you can never take it from a year when you have surplus, where do you get it from? And I think the state's perspective is, well, you get it from your CMHS counties. That's not a popular position either. So it's an odd thing. So moving then into the next section that talks about PHP procurement, the state has, of course, released by memo an announcement that they would be bidding out the PHP system on a timeline that would probably have the RFP materials out this summer, a decision made and announcements and decisions by next spring, and then the fall of 2026 would be the implementation of new contracts. The department has been a little hard to read on this because it has come out with a couple of different things. One of the things you'll notice in the paper that I provided you, if you look partway into the, there's two slides there that are listed. If you look at the bottom slide, on the right-hand side where it says fiscal 27 plan activities, go 3 down on that. It says coordinate with plan partners on shared metrics in alignment PHP procurement objectives. So what they've done now is to put out this thing called the mental health framework, and have talked about tying the procurement process to it in a manner. The mental health framework all by itself is a little bit concerning too, because the fact is the state is saying what they'd like to do is to tie the CMH's funding and the Medicaid health plans, the people who do physical health care work for Medicaid recipients, together in a manner that requires increasing care coordination and a solid decision-making process that diverts people who have mild or moderate mental health conditions to the responsibility of the Medicaid health plan for payment and for treatment services. And the people whose needs are more severe would go to the CMH or the PHP's responsibility. So it's kind of separating that out. But they haven't really helped us understand in their concept of what's behind this is right now, as for those CMHs that have become CCBHCs, as we have, certified community behavioral health clinics under the state's demonstration waiver, people with mild and moderate conditions are allowed to come to our doors, whether they have Medicaid or not. And so this feels like a very mishmashy kind of what's trying to be done here. The state doesn't really have answers for this. The folks who are planning on the mental health framework side really aren't on the CCBHC side, and there's a difficulty in coordination of all that. The Community Mental Health Association leadership sat down with the department to have a frank dialogue around this PHP bid out and asked them kind of what are you after? What are you driving for here? It's never been bid out before. It's always been a request for information and an application for participation, because as Michigan is structured, the responsibility for community mental health services is public responsibility owned at the county level. We organized amongst ourselves to create a larger entity for Medicaid managed care purposes called the PHP. The Lakeshore Regional Entity was created by us and our 4 partners, and it's the vehicle. The state can choose to, create more or less PHPs, I suppose, if they want, but it can't be a non-public system, not according to the way in which the laws are operated in the state. Well, what they've said they're after is they would like to have contractual arrangement with the PHP, one or more, where they can simply impose, like a vendor, contract requirements and have it be done. Well, wouldn't that be nice? But just so happens that PHPs and CMHs are public entities. We're governmental just as the state is governmental, just at a different level. And you can't impose contracts on governmental partners. You have to negotiate them. They have to be worked out. The whole system that was created back in 1963 and ongoing, and our creation in 1970, was intended for a local support for people with needs that was funded by state and federal resources. So it's always been local with federal and state support. The system that the state is talking about is a state-centric system where they are the driver of all that goes on, and we're simply vendors. That doesn't match the law. It doesn't match procurement standards for public services. And it'd be like doing that to the health departments or to the fire departments. And we're local safety net providers. And you don't just purchase us like we're providing you with carpet cleaning services, where you can say, here's what I want done and how. They aren't a purchaser. They're supposed to be a supporter, a funder. The second thing they're after is looking for increased choice for consumers, which is a wonderful idea, wonderful, important need. What they intend to do apparently is to create the possibility for there to be multiple plans for behavioral health services available in every community, whereby a person can choose to be a part of this behavioral health plan or that behavioral health plan, much like you can be a part of this Medicaid health plan or that Medicaid health plan like you are today. The vast majority of people leave the assignment of their health plan under Medicaid to the state. It's an automatic assignment process. You can't choose, but the vast majority of people just auto assign because benefits the same. Your physician provides services, whether you are in plan A or B or whatever, they participate with all. That sort of sounds okay, but on the other hand, what they also said they're looking for is increased standardization, which would seem like you wouldn't get that if you're creating different plans. Maybe from their perspective, it's more standardization, but it wouldn't be for the person served. So again, it sort of feels like they're after this nebulous goal that isn't really achieved. So that's what they're saying. So you recall the survey that was launched along with the memo to everybody requested that you fill out a survey. We sent that along to all the board members and encouraged people to serve it, to provide information into it. The association asked for, through a FOIA, requested the department to give the association the results, the responses of that survey, much as we did before when there was a a previous effort. This time they said that the raw data is not available, it doesn't exist. But they'll provide it to us later when something has happened that they've done to process it. So again, it's an unusual time in the conversation with the department because it feels like, again, the efforts feel like they are slaps rather than real reform. Efforts to not do things the way we've done, but not really do the hard work to work out the details with us as a system about how we can better meet their needs or objectives. Because there are lots of ways to do the work. There's lots of ways we'd like to collaborate together, but it just doesn't feel like there's much of an interest to meet us in the middle. So what I have here for you on this page 27 is everything we know today about the mental health framework. My personal projection is that I doubt very much that the efforts to implement a mental health framework, which is a major change in the way in which the Medicaid health plans work with us, a change in funding responsibilities, and because all of these things are connected to waivers at the federal level that have been introduced and approved over time. So even if the state started today and had it all figured out and submitted the waivers, it'd be difficult to imagine that those could get done by the end of fiscal 20, well, the beginning of fiscal 27, by October of 2026. And so the governor's term is done at the end of December of 2026. And ordinarily that leads to a fairly rapid turnover of leadership in the department's administration. And it's very possible, won't say likely because we don't know the likelihood of anything, but it's possible. It happens in other administrations where the new administration coming in has a totally different view and is unwilling to simply take the trajectory that things have been on under the previous administration and carrying them out because there may be differences in policy perspective. So we really don't know what's going to happen. The runway is short. The change objectives are huge. The timeline involved in federal approvals of what they're suggesting happen, not just that, but also all of the work that goes on in trying to go through procurement for not yet quite fleshed out ideas, just seems unrealistic that it's going to get done by the time the governor's term ends. And I mean, I could be wrong. We really could be wrong, but my sense is it's not going to get done at the time. So we've been through, I think this may be our fourth systems change reform, from section 298 revisions to the first PHP bid out, the second PHP bid outs. And there was one that was done with the leader of the department was Director Gordon. If anybody remembers that, there was a change to the My Health Plan or something that was going to be done to sort of change the mental health system. That didn't come to fruition. These things come and go sometimes, and I would like to think that these are more serious proposals that we could figure out together and sort of make the best possible system for the people we serve. But if there isn't room for any negotiation and there's an attempt to turn the world upside down, that would require changes in the mental health code that aren't really engaging the people we serve as seeing if it's beneficial in their eyes. There's just not a likelihood that it's going to move forward. So my read on it is that this is one of those attempts to try to make things better, but not really the right way. So we'll see. Our county commission has taken up a recommendation, a motion, resolution as proposed by the Michigan Association of Counties to oppose the continued work on the PHP procurement process. That's important for folks to know about. Appreciate the efforts of the commission to take that, and that will be being shared as we have the opportunity to get the final wording on that. So that's where we stand with it. It's threatened. The legal understanding we have is that you will see lawsuits. The lawsuits will be able to be filed when the RFP for the new procurement process becomes available. that's the moment where action can be taken in court. And some will do that just simply because it's so wrong related to the existing laws that are on the books for the way the system is organized. So that's what we know. On the topic of budget, if you go to the right above the yellow highlights on page 28, they talk a little bit about the federal budget. I want to say one comment on the state budget before we get there. The state budget has yet to be introduced. The House version has yet to be introduced by the House of Representatives. Ordinarily, the Senate and the House, of course, pass their own versions and they work out their differences. The Senate's gone far enough to, have its process introduced. Even the draft of the budget on the House side has not been presented. There had been some concern that it might take all the way until September to get, so in July it comes to be presented and then it'll take till September to get adopted. That's going to be a concern for a couple of reasons if that goes that way. The first is that in the current year budget, there are a number of, I think about $100 million of red ink being spilled by the PHPs today, collectively. Where if you put all 10 PHPs together and add it up, you'll see there's deficits in total of about $100 million statewide. And the legislature actually appropriated well over that amount last year. The department has not pushed the dollars out in the form of rate increases to cover costs. It's required by law to devote the money that it takes to provide the services to the system. With the language reads that the state shall support. So this $100 million is being worked on in concept as a supplemental bill that would be created, even though the state doesn't need the authority of the legislature to disperse it. They are asking for the legislature to tell them to do it. Because they, in the last budget presentation that was done in the Senate, the Medicaid health plans had some negative words to say about the department and their actuary service. And the department has since said that they plan not to move on anything until the legislature clearly tells them how to do it. And the feeling like they took the negative comments as kind of like I don't know, hurt their feelings or something, I don't know. And they're waiting on the department. So there's been an effort to create language that would clearly allow for the legislature to give the state the directive that it needs, that they say they will need in order to remove the money or to move the money through. But if the budget takes until September to be finalized, and this is part of a supplemental that has to be passed at the same time, there's a concern that those that are in red ink territory will have to make reductions before it gets to September, because you can't take the risk that it doesn't get passed in September either. So just like if we were expecting a deficit at the end of the year, we'd be making changes now to reduce the impact of those leading bad indicators. So there's a lot of disquiet right now in the legislature and in the department about these things, and it's difficult to know how to best support them or read them for that matter. On top of that is the federal proposals, and this is where I'll get back to on page 28 and 29. Tonight, or I should say tomorrow morning at about 1 o'clock in the morning, the U.S. House of Representatives will meet in its Rules Committee to adopt a final version of the House's that big beautiful bill where the Medicaid cuts are located. That is coming to the floor of the House. The intent of the speaker, as we understand it, is they want to achieve an approval of it in the House by Memorial Day. And so next Friday, it's the target date for it's coming Friday. It's the target date for it to be done. In order to do that, they need to get it out of the House by way of the Rules Committee and then the floor vote later this week. There's a lot of internal divides amongst the legislators. House Republicans that have mostly been the only party really voting in favor have 3 votes to spare. If there are any more than that, that oppose it, then a bill doesn't pass. So we'll be watching closely to see what happens. The bigger concerns that we were watching was the whether or not Medicaid would be cut by way of reducing the match that the states get. That does not appear, at least until now, to be part of the plan, but the final plan we'll see in the bill after tonight. We don't anticipate seeing reductions to the plan, to Medicaid, by block granting it to the states rather than being of entitlement. And so, but other provisions that have to do with requiring people who are in the Medicaid program, unless if they meet certain categorical exceptions, will be required to work or do other kinds of activities in order to qualify. There's a lot of language in the bills about having to recertify, requalify every so often, prove that you are who you are, that you're not enrolled in many state plans simultaneously. Just a lot of things that will take folks out of coverage, not because they'll be found to violate. It's just that the rules are usually so complicated. When Michigan did this before, it resulted in a lot of people losing coverage simply because the process of verifying your eligibility couldn't be done. Systems to support it didn't work, and there was a lot of folks that lost their coverage in the course of it. So we're concerned about that. In addition to what we're concerned about on the Medicaid side, we're watching very carefully what's happening on the housing side, as we are also the HARA for the county. There's a lot greater cuts being done on the HUD side. The grants that come for rental assistance, the homeless assistance programs, the language I put there, 43% cut to rental assistance, two-year time limit on receiving support. All of it will reduce the amount of housing that we're able to support for people in this community. Not that there was a lot of it extra to work with in the first place, but that's what it will do, is it will diminish our ability to help. So we're watching that carefully. I did make reference to 2 handouts that are I made around your table. First is an infographic sheet associated by the department explaining some of where the budget shortfalls exist in the Medicaid program today in Michigan. The other one is the multi-page document that comes from the governor's office in response to an executive directive to try to find out what the downsides or the shortfalls would be in the Medicaid program if the federal proposals that were active at the time were to be understood. I think it'd be helpful. The pages are not numbered, but I think it'd be helpful for you in general to have some sense of the bullet points on page 3. Just know that the CMH system in Michigan is a $3.5 billion Medicaid program. And in addition to that, there are HCBS or home and community-based services that many of our clients participate in that are also supported by an additional $1.5 billion of Medicaid funding. And then I think I'll just leave it at that. But it's a really deep dive, but it's pretty clear reading if you want to understand how the Medicaid program works in Michigan and where the potholes are for the proposals if they're approved. So I think we're out of the most egregious problems in terms of what the legislature seems to be, at least going into tonight's conference committee or to tonight's budget committee, rules committee, what we're expected to see. But it's never over till it's over, and there's a lot of legislative activity in front of it yet too. So we'll see. But it's a very serious concern. I'll answer any questions you may have, or try not to get too far out on a prognosticated perch, because you just don't know the future. But if not, concludes my report.
Thanks, Mark. Okay. Another opportunity for, provision for public comment. Anyone wishes to speak? That's for hands. Okay. Jane, anything?
No, did you want to mention the program committee?
I do.
Okay. No, other than that.
Yeah.
It's doing it.
Good. Yes, comment. Mark?
Just, remember your neighbors and friends and others around the county over the last weekend, the storms that came through, the tornadoes. There's a lot of loss, a lot of uncertainty. People are frustrated because things aren't getting taken care of as quickly as they thought. Not that I have any experience in it, but some people handle it as well as others, and especially some of our recipients here, they don't understand. So just keep that in mind as we see our neighbors and stuff, and give them a little extra kindness.
Yeah.
Wanted to mention that, with this, storms that went through, OnPoint was up there, ready to go to add support, and appreciated the comments that Mr. Whitty made during our EOC meetings. And, we need to go, and if you know, first responders or, firemen or, super power line guys that are in need of somebody to talk or whatever, refer them. Make sure that they know that they can, come and, receive services. So, thank you.
Yes, I wanted to, let the board know that I have asked, Jane if she would be willing to, become the chair of the program committee. Wanting me to step aside, and she has said yes, so I would like that to happen starting next month. And that, Kim is going to stay as the vice chair. And I also wanted to just mention that, I'm going to hopefully be able to take the actual resolution with me to the LRE meeting next month, or next week, I should say. And, but if nothing else, I'm going to at least, query the rest of the, other counties to see if their, boards of commission have done the same as far as trying to advocate for, an opposition to this whole bid out process. So we'll see where I would be surprised if other counties haven't done the same, but I'll find out. Yes,
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to confirm that appointment this time to the program committee.
okay. Support? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
Congratulations, Jane.
Thank you very much. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Right. Support. I heard it over here somewhere. Okay. I'll say yes. Yes. Oh, motion carried. Thank you.